Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to go over a bunch of different deck list options if you want to participate in the qualifier weekend historic best of three. We have the play-in qualifier on Friday, your kind of last chance qualifier to make it into the Mythic Qualifier weekend, which will take place on Saturday. This is historic best of three. We're going to try to cover as many deck options as possible. The biggest caveat is the newest set, Ixalan, only came out on Tuesday. A very short turnaround. I'm recording this on Thursday, 2 days for kind of new archetype stuff to weed out. So where possible, I tried to pull up things to consider. There will likely be new decks that come out from this weekend for the historic format. So as much as possible, I will try to call out things, but myself included, I haven't had a great opportunity to really test out huge amounts of cards in the format. I don't think Dinosaur Tribal in historic is necessarily going to take down the likes of Kethis, but this is kind of your peak tournament. We will come back with the regular installments of the weekly meta breakdown in coming weeks. Untapped, which what you see on the screen where we're going to get most of the data from, they actually did an awesome thing and lowered the cap of games down to 50. So we should get more diversity of decks that are performing for future weeks as well. So we'll look at Untapped, MTG Decks.com, as well as Bisman, who's a great source for historic competitive content. Check out their stream if you haven't. Probably one of my most watched Twitch streamers for all Magic content in general, but specifically historic. He's my go-to for a lot of deck ideas. Very, very good player. So we're going to look at the performance itself. So right now the distribution, this is popularity of the day. Wizards has come down quite a bit. If we look at Wizards' popularity, they were in the 20s for a while. And similarly, we had times where mono green was upwards of 30%. So both have fallen down to kind of the high double digits-ish. We see an increase in Azorius Control come up. They got a card Get Lost. Simic Merfolk may be a deck. They got a lot of new tools, but Merfolk, similarly with humans, I was having a hard time trying to get the right configuration. There's a lot of cards you can put in these decks, and it's quite difficult to kind of make a call. There's a Golgari Yawgmoth deck, which sometimes is Yawgmoth, sometimes is Samwise Combo, sometimes is both smashed in, and then Gruul Goblins that we see from there. So that's the distribution. We're going to start with untapped data. I will timestamp these, put the deck list in the video so you can just kind of bounce around as you feel fit. So trying to get it. Someone asked, keep the deck list with the banner and everything, so trying to do that. So Izzet Wizards. 79% win rate, this particular configuration, 77 games, so smaller sample size, but even looking at some of the other versions, it was 70-ish%. Wizards is kind of the deck, while it may not win every game, it's going to be on the minds of every player. Wizards won the last Arena Championship. It is the deck, very aggressive, gives your opponent really no chance to kind of settle down. This version here is still on the sleight of hand. The opt or consider might be a better option at instant speed, but still something to consider here. This might be a holdover from the Bowmaster days. This is the Arena Championship list, but Wizard Tribal deck, play spells, get pumps. You have Symmetry Sage that gets a huge buff to your team, prowess things. You pump up your Dreadhorde Arcanist with either the Symmetry Sage or Balmor, flashback spells, flashback your Expressive Iterations, flashback your Flame of Anors, which deals with Shieldred, deals with everything at a Kethis, deals with the artifacts. Just a really, really powerful card here. Your sideboard in the Jingantha deck, Pithing Needle for activated abilities, Yawgmoth, stuff like that. Spell Pierces as counter, some more removal and Strangle. We have Aether Gust. This is actually not the World Championship list. The World Championship had Reckless Rage in it and a Strangle main, but kind of a little bit of a holdover with Sleight of Hand, now that I see without the Strangle. Aether Gust for green or red decks, Snapcaster Mage for the grindier decks. So when you usually play against control or longer matchups, just gives you some utility there. Unlicensors for graveyard hate, and then Brotherhood's End is very good against the artifact deck. Even against like the rope line attendant decks, anything that's going really wide, it can help you catch up. While it kills some of your creatures, but against artifacts, it's really good because you can choose the artifact mode. Depending on how you play the deck, you know, if you're trying to go one creature out and they have like 10, it's going to be hard to attack it. Moving on, we have Boros Thopters. So I should note, this is before Ixalan's release. So cards might have come in. The data is just locked right now because it usually takes a couple days to accumulate for these eternal formats. So we have the Boros artifacts, Boros Affinity, Boros Thopter, whatever you want to call it, 71.6%. And this is a deck built around Retrofitter Foundry. And then you basically take your Ornithopters, Barb Spikes, your Yotai, tokens, sack them, make 4/4s. Shrapnel Blast was the most recent innovation to the deck. This will allow you to throw any artifact at target creature or player and deal 5 damage, which is really nice. Another out to Sheoldred. This version is also an improvised club. Similar idea. This one will deal 4 damage to any target. So this one can also go face or hit a Planeswalker. Shrapnel Blast cannot hit a Planeswalker. Giver of Ruins, another card that gets added. Just gives protection to like your Ingenious Smith or Esper Sentinel, but also it could give it protection, so it can be pseudo unblockable when attacking in. Shadow Sphere is another way with Trample. Your Lurrus is Companion, so Deafening Silence, any sort of combo deck playing a bunch of cards for the turn. Also pretty reasonable against mono green when they are doing their like multi-turn spell, like kind of the pop off. This does care about non-creatures, but Storm the Festival's Cures, Karns, anything like that, it can shut them off from playing multiple spells. Pithing Needle for activated abilities, Portal Hole removal, Soul Guide Lantern, Stone of Erich, both as graveyard hate. Stone of Erich is also good against like the Yawgmoth or Sack decks for exile. Dampening Sphere for big mana decks, combo decks, and then there's more graveyard hate and licensors, more removal and Glass Casket. We then go to Mono White Human. So this one's at 69% win rate. Biggest innovation and addition to this deck, full 4 Cavern of Souls should be added to this deck. Maybe 3, maybe 4. You can probably get away with 4. Actually, with the sideboard, maybe 3. Because the thing is, I was trying out some human decks. I was getting a little greedy with Path of Ancestry. It makes it a little bit hard when you're playing a lot of like the non-colored lands with things like Portable Hole and stuff like that out of the sideboard. But this is using Inquisitor Captain as a way to kind of tutor up spells. You get to bring into play cards. Ranger Captain of Eos lets you find your 1-drops, gets you some more card advantage. Thalia's a tax effect. Non-basic lands. Your opponent control enters tapped. Brutal Cathar's removal. Single copy of Adelin's really interesting. There's usually a card that's a big player in the deck, but seeing it down to 1 copy. Coppercoat Vanguard. Another card that's interesting to see only as a 3 of as opposed to a 4 of. In place opting for like Luminarch Aspirant, Thalia's Lieutenant, your recruitment officer's more card advantage. Sigardian Evangel is another card that could help you tap down a bunch of stuff out of your opponent's board, and then Esper Sentinel as tax. There's a player on the ladder that's on a banned humans list that's been top 10 Mythic. I've seen them in like some of the streams. I cannot find the deck. I've looked everywhere to try to find that deck. Uses like Avacyn Pilgrim, Reflector Mage. Avacyn Pilgrim into turn 2 Adelin on the play seems very powerful. I can't find the deck list. I'm going nuts. So if anybody knows, player is Veritas 1776. But Pithing Needles, again, Portable Holes removal, Apostle Purifying Light, good against the black decks, can be graveyard hate. Invasion as a kind of hand hate, Thoughtseize style effect. Rest in Peace as graveyard hate, Selfless Spirit for protection against board wipes. Extraction Specialist for the grindier matchups, Lorn for artifact enchantments, and then more removal with the Skyclave Apparition. While not a human, this can be hit off the Inquisitor Captain as well. We then move to 4-color Kethis. This one's at 67%. So there's a couple different variants of Kethis. So I will be later on linking to Missman's site for the blue-white control deck. He also has a Kethis version there if you want to check it out. He got to number 2 Mythic with it. Both are like very powerful decks. This one's on like the Chromatic Spear. Missman's on the Entomb effect. But kind of the core of the deck is you're putting cards into your graveyard and then using Kethis' ability to loop Mox Ambers to generate you a bunch of mana. That lets you recast Jace multiple times to mill yourself. And then you keep doing it until you can net enough mana and enough cards to recast Jace over and over and mill out your opponent. You can also just draw your last card out of your deck with Jace and win that way there. This version of the deck also now gets Agatha's Soul Cauldron as another way to put counters on creatures and give them the activated abilities. So Any creature could become Rona, for example, or Kinian for the activated ability, or Kethis, so you get multiple copies of Kethis, or even Emery style effects. So you can kind of build up a Rona Emery, where you can tap Emery to cast the Mox Amber. The Mox Amber untaps the Rona. So if you put the Emery ability on Rona, then you can do that. And then you can just kind of keep looping, and that generates you infinite mana as well. Zerda is your companion. Your sideboard, you got Stone of Erich, same idea, Yawgmoth deck, Sack deck, Stonebrain. You usually want to name Karn if possible, get it under the Karn. That's one of the big issues of the deck. You have Boromir, which is good in the mirror. If your opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, you counter it. So this breaks the combo of the Mox Ambers. They're not able to break the loop. Lizelle for the heavy removal-based matchups. Ruinous Blast is a sweeper, and Yawgmoth is another way to deal with like Karn shuts off the combo. Wizards is another tough matchup. I know in Mistman's list they're on 4 Fatal Push main, so you might want to look if you're interested in Kethis to compare between the both of the decks and see which version you're most interested in playing. I anticipate a lot of Wizards, so Mistman's might be a little bit better just into a Wizards deck, giving you multiple ways to kind of shoot at your opponent with Fatal Pushes. This deck's hard to play, so if you've never played it before, don't just pick it up for the event. Play some games on the ladder, practice first. We then go to Mono Green Devotion. This one's at 62% win rate. And this deck is all about abusing Nykthos. So you want to generate a huge bounce of mana. Biggest thing, you unlock some more elves thanks to the Bowmaster ban. But Utopia Sprawl, Llanowar Elves, Delighted Halfling, ideally turn 2, one of your 3 drops. Fiora lets you tap and tap. So either like your Utopia Sprawls, Mana Dorks, Nykthos, generate a whole bunch of mana. Karn, like similar to the Pioneer Explorer versions. Cavalier, this one's on Vorinclex. Timeless Witness also lets you rebuy some stuff. Llanowar Tribe is another accelerant. Grizzled Huntmaster lets you tutor stuff out of your sideboard in terms of creatures. So then your sideboard, bunch of one-ofs, because it's an artifact kind of Karn deck. Graveyard Hate, Artifact Enchantment Hate, activated abilities. Karn can shut off. You can either blow up lands with Karn's Plus or shut off activated abilities because it makes them static with Karn's ability. Combo Hate, recycle things, Staff of Domination. So if you have a Nissa and like with Utopia Sprawls or Nykthos, you can keep tapping and tapping to generate infinite mana. Eventually, like with Staff, you could tap and tap it multiple times and draw out your whole deck if you want. Tranquil Fillback could be tutored if needed. Skyship for like removal, Mightstone Meekstone removal or card draw. Chronos Memorial, when the turn you generate a whole bunch of mana, put a bunch of things to the board. You get Memorial to give your board haste. Leveler and Portal is kind of blow up stuff. Woodcaller Automaton is another way to animate a land and generate like the infinite mana. And then Darksteel Citadel when you need a creature. We then go to 5 Color Reanimator. This is another deck from Mistman. So this is all about reanimating your Atraxas. The one kind of innovation that I saw in more recent versions that you might want to take a look at, and you'd have to tweak the mana base just slightly, but instead of the Troll of Khazad-dûm, whatever it's called, they were on the green like forest cycling one because it's a tree that has reach, so it's good against the Wizards deck. Beyond that is pretty much the same idea. You're using Priest of Fell Rites or Burial Rites to reanimate Atraxa or like the tree. Perseus helps you find stuff, Fable to copy stuff, and then just a bunch of interaction, Thoughtseize, Fragments, Reprieves kind of mixed into there. Phyrexian Swarmyard is another way to put stuff into the graveyard. More removal, more hand hate, Graveyard Hate, and then Sarah's Emissary against some of the creature decks that don't have a way to kill Sarah. You can just lock them out of the game. We then go to Mistman's blue-white control deck. So he finally gave in and is playing Callum, but Callum Snapcaster mix, single copy of Phyrexian Unlife, which is interesting. Gives you another way to have cheap, basically gives you an extra 10 life. So in the more aggressive matchups, you throw it down, buys you a couple extra turns to stabilize. This one here should add a couple copies of Get Lost, likely in case of Fateful Absence, probably another March. But just blue-white control, slow the game down. You win with Callums, Snapcasters, Teferis. or like the Hall of the Storm Giants. Counter spells, different removal spells in the option, and the sideboard kind of mixed into there. I think he actually does a sideboard guide, so against the more common decks, you can see what he's bringing in, what he's taking out. So very useful resource. His site's really good for like if you're looking for a couple historic decks. A little niche in terms of like the decks he plays and like the top tier, but like I said, very good resource. Coming up for a couple other ones. So this is Glass Cannon, can work, can go horribly. It's the Geist Combo. So Geist of St. Trath. So basically what you're doing is you're playing a bunch of ley lines. You mill aggressively until you have ley line of any of the ley lines, as well as Fragment Reality. You play the ley line on turn 0, you fragment reality. So all you need is a land fragment and a ley line. You fragment the ley line, it always gets you Geist of St. Trath. So turn 1 you have Geist back in, and then you just throw down a bunch of like Arcane Flights, Ethereal Armor, stuff like that. Try to cheese out the victory there. 18 lands. You're trying to really jank out your opponent that way. Graveyard Hate, Combo Hate, Artifact Enchantment Hate, counters, and then Staggering Insight helps with like the grindier games and also gives you some life. But very much a cheese deck. I think someone will probably play it just because it's, if you're not familiar with the format, it kind of autopilots a lot of itself. It's a very tilting deck for both playing and playing against. Some games you just have it in your opener, other times you mulligan to 1. It's pretty telltale what they're on too if they mulligan to like 4 or less. There's this combo here, the Sam Combo. So notably, Sam Combo did get an upgrade. So Bartolomeo, the new 2-mana sack outlet, can be used instead of Woe Strider in this combo deck. So you can actually play a Luris companion version of the deck. This one here is kind of Sam Combo as well as a bit of a Yogg combo. It doesn't have the Young Wolf combo necessarily, but has some access to Yogg. So the combo of Woe Strider or any sort of sack outlet, you could play Bartolomeo as well. Samwise and Cauldron Familiar lets you infinitely sack the Cauldron, get it back, drain out your opponent, infinite damage. Infinite life loss actually, so it's even better because it gets around the ring's protection. And then the deck, like you have Accelerants, Juggernaut Peddler, Disruption. Ropeline Attendant gives all your creatures in your hand more creatures to come along. Distraction Specialist helps you find your other combo pieces that died. Skyclave Apparition for removal, Knight Errant. You have Agatha's Soul Cauldron as another way to enable some of the activated abilities. Chord lets you find any of your key combo pieces. Sideboard, you have like Graveyard Hate, Elven Chorus for the grindier games, Elishnorn for ETB, Draina for like the Mirror or like Kethis, anything with activated abilities, Arasta for Wizards, Redain for big mana. I don't know what Demon's Disciple is, just a sack effect that also hits Planeswalkers. Arcan of Emeria for like non-basic lands, Storm cards, Cleric for Graveyard Hate, Provoker for activated abilities, anti-life gain, and then some Fatal Pushes mixed in all things. Then move to auras. So a couple different versions. Some are on Invisible Stalker, some aren't, but basically the core of this deck, Core Spirit Dancer and Light Paws, slap on a whole bunch of different auras. Lets you either get card draw or tutor effects, Staggering Insight as well, or sorry, All That Glitters and where Ethereal Armor scale in terms of the number of enchantments, Staggering Insight for like life gain, Kaya's Ghost Form's a big one to kind of give you protection, and this is a Luris Companion. Again, just removal, activated abilities, Graveyard Hate, and kind of anti-combo hate, Containment Priest, Hushbringers, kind of mixed into there. And then lastly, Gruul Goblins, another deck that can probably get away with throwing a couple copies of Cavern of Souls in there. I wouldn't go too many because you still are, this deck's built around Cabaret Revels, so you kind of cascade into cheaper goblins. So with the things like Skirk Prospector, basically can net you a bunch of mana by playing things like Goblin Instigator. You can cast it, makes 2 mana, finds you a 1-drop, kind of chaining through there. Goblin and Archomancer makes things cheaper, and then your win con like Palishman, whenever a goblin dies, you ping for damage. Squee the Immortal can just be sacked multiple times and come back. If you have both a Goblin and Archomancer as well as the Goblin Influx Array, but gets you kind of multiple casts. Muxus, Krenko, kind of all in there. There's a video if you want to see how the deck works on my channel. I played it in an older metagame challenge. Deck hasn't changed too much. Cabaret Marvels actually got reverted from the nerf. So it's now no longer red, red, green. It's just one red, green. Your sideboard, Fear, Fire, Foes. What red deals X damage to target creature and 1 damage to each other creature. Good against like those rope line attendant decks, go wide decks, stuff of that nature. Mass Vandal is a goblin that blows up artifacts, enchantments. Nature's Spire. Return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Don't know why that's in there. Couldn't tell you. Play probably more removal for Wizards. Or like the goblin, 4-mana goblin that blows up Goblin Trashmaster. Play that instead of this. Brotherhood's End, kind of similar effect. Goblin Influx Arrays, Goblin Ringleaders. This is helpful, I guess, against the artifact deck as well, but you probably want some more ways to kind of interact with the board. You can also try things like just more copies of Muxus. You can play Chandra on the side. Depends on how combo oriented you want to be. This deck is can combo up pretty hard, but it's kind of weak to Divine Purge as well as Sweepers. If blue-white control is very popular, having access to Chandra can just provide like an alternate kind of win condition. So that's it for the week. I will report after on any new decks, anything that kind of came out of the format, but good luck to those competing. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.